So I thought I would go into a new topic, which is guilt. I've been really introspective for the past few weeks, and these past few days, well, it's evolving to different things, but these past few weeks, and it was really analyzing where all of this weight comes from. And aside from the fear, which is always the root of everything, it's feelings of guilt and shame. And so I thought, what's the origin of guilt? And sort of reflected on that. And so something that I came up with, which I will read now, that came up, that guilt is the shadow cast by forgotten truth. I read this somewhere and it just felt like it was like exactly what I feel and my understanding. And to unpack that is, guilt is a shadow cast by a forgotten truth. A truth that anything that happens in life, even when we have a responsibility for everything that happens in our life. That is just the simple fact and truth. Every dynamic, every reaction, it's our responsibility. And to live in that, when we project the idea that we hold the responsibility of someone else's feelings, there's a feeling of guilt that begins to rise up. For me, it's like it was a lot about the emotions of other people. It was like I felt responsible for their emotions. If I had a difficult time with something and something that someone said hurt me, and even communicating that, which is very healthy, regardless of that person recognizing that or not, I still felt like I would need to learn how to, and I did, to handle my own emotion and process my own emotion in my own way. And I never felt that I put the guilt of whatever I'm feeling onto someone else, even if it was a situation in a dynamics with someone else that made me feel a certain way. It's still my own responsibility to handle that feeling, process that feeling, communicate that feeling. That is still my job and my responsibility in that dynamic. And so when I would say my truth, even if it is just purely my truth, and I'm not offending anyone, and I'm not bringing an intention to the plate of emotionally destabilizing that person. If that person became emotionally unstable or sad or angry out of my communication, no matter how perfect that communication might have been, I felt a sense of guilt, as if whatever they're feeling in that emotion, whatever emotion they are experiencing, that it in this case wasn't positive, was negative, like that was somehow my responsibility, and it's not. And I always had this voice in my head that would just go into like, I just don't understand, like, why I keep doing this. Why should I feel guilty when someone does something to me and we have a conversation about it? Not to me, but like if there's something we disagree or there's something that happens, we sit down, we have a conversation, I communicate it. I'm so willing to like hear their side of the story. Like I want to understand, and I always want to find a common ground where both people, me and the other person, find a way of being heard in whatever each one of our truths is. And I'm very open to that. But when it was something that, because of something that I said, sparked an exaggerated reaction from someone else, or just, I guess, a reaction that I didn't want, maybe, I would have a feeling of guilt, and it would just like rise up in my chest, which I've been observing, and like you just feel your whole body contracting. And that's not the way that I wish to live, and I do wish to change that and release that. I'm very willing to, and I believe that it is the healthiest way, that you hear someone else, they hear you out, both people have a validity to their truth, and that's perfectly fine. And even if you agree to disagree, at least both sides were heard in a respectful, healthy way. But whatever I feel, it's not someone else's responsibility, and whatever they feel, it's not my responsibility. Especially if my intention was nothing but to speak my truth. And so going further into it, like in life, there's all sorts of things that happen. And as a human, it seems like we always put ourselves either in the I'm the superior, the like I'm in control, and the other one is the victim, or vice versa. Find it to be not the most, not at all the accurate way of how things are, and I really make an effort to be as the most aware that I can, so that is not the way that I frame things. Yeah, so when I see that like there's a situation where I'm feeling triggered for something, and even if that person said something, and it might have been like in their intention actually to hurt me or provoke me and to spark an emotion out of me, in some way, shape, or form, I'm creating that. And I'm saying this only because of this. No matter what anyone else says, regardless of their intention to hurt you or provoke you or spark an emotion out of you, like, it only triggers you if there is a part of you that, one, values their opinion, whatever they think, above what you feel for yourself, or you feel insecure about something, or you're afraid that whatever that person feels or thinks might be true and that would make you a bad person, all sorts of things. But it only triggers you because it triggers something inside of you, and that thing that is within you, if you resolve that, if you're willing to sit down and have a conversation with yourself and dig deep and ask questions to yourself like, why am I feeling this way? Why did what that person say trigger me that much? What did it spark within me? What kind of emotion? How am I perceiving myself in accordance or in comparison to other people that would trigger such a reaction in me? Or even if it's not spoken, but just in your physical body. And I believe that to be very important, to ask those questions, because when you do that, you sort of stop being a victim in the situation and making that person the perpetrator and the attacker, regardless of their intention. Like, forget about their intention, it doesn't matter. It's like anyone in the world can think whatever they want about you and believe. Sometimes people even invent things, like complete imagination, which I find so mind-blowing, to have that much imagination or illusion, whatever you want to call it. I find it quite amusing. And it doesn't mean it can't hurt you, but it honestly, when you dig deep, when it does feel like it hurts you, something that someone said, doesn't it come because part of you is afraid of something or insecure about something? And that's the part that I'm interested in digging deep. This doesn't mean that like anyone can talk to you in whichever way and you just go about and it's not your fault, it's your responsibility to handle your own emotions. At least that's how I perceive life. And it doesn't mean that you just allow anyone to do whatever to you or to be in whichever way. There is a whole other aspect of like having boundaries, speaking your truth, holding your truth in place and everything like that, which I do. But in the emotional side and in not holding those emotions in your body and releasing them, I found that when I shift the blaming game, that person, why is that person like that? Why are they acting like that? Why do they say that? Why do they mean to hurt me? Which I'm putting myself in a victim position. When I shifted and I'm like, well, I don't believe what they said is true. And I don't feel it in my heart. And if I did something that might have hurt that person, and that wasn't my intention, I will so go on and speak that and say sorry if I do feel like that is genuine to whatever might have happened. While at the same time, it's not my job to fix their emotions. It's not my job to want them to get out of them faster than they can, and whatever they feel, think about me, whatever perspective they have, most of the time is a projection of your own fears and insecurities, for you to look at them and be willing to breathe them out and release that tension and that fear out of your body. So these days I see it more like a tool. These mirrors that are all around me, especially in these circumstances, and it allows me to gain a bigger perspective. Because the thing that I found is this: it doesn't matter whether the way that I think about life is right or wrong. But in my experience, when I look at life in this way and I allow myself to process these emotions and reframe things in a different way, it certainly brings me a sense of peace and awareness in my life that I wish to experience and live by. And so in the end, it doesn't really matter if anyone resonates with this. If anyone does, and it brings them some sort of awareness in this contemplation, that is amazing. But even if no one does, I'm free to live and to frame things and to believe in things in whichever way I want to, if that so brings me happiness. And I say happiness not in this like elusive way, but like it just brings balance to my experience of life, and I live with a sense of peace in my heart, and I allow myself to breathe. And no one has to agree with it. It's okay if no one agrees with it. It's okay to just be yourself. It's okay to have your opinion. It's okay that other people might have feelings that are not the positive ones about something that you believe in or your perspective in life. It's okay to be different. You don't have to people please everyone, and you don't have to have everyone agree with you or see your point in order for it to be valid. Your truth is your valuable truth. In whichever way it might be. And most of the time it's just emotions that we sort of cast away or repress or suppress. And if we are willing to look at them, there's this pressure that leaves and stops being present in everything that happens. And when that happens, when someone says this thing that would have made you feel bad for 3 days or 3 weeks, rethinking it over and over and over again, suddenly just doesn't even touch you. It goes in one ear and goes out in the other one, because there is nothing substantial that it's touching within you, because you're no longer holding on to that emotion, fear, insecurity. And when you do that, honestly, those things stop happening as much when you stop being triggered by them. And it's not because I avoided them or suppressed them or fought against them. It's because when anything happened, I just stopped. Most of the time also went after that situation just to be by myself and really had a conversation about why that triggered me, what is it sprouting within me, and asking all the right questions. And when I do that, even if it makes me cry, I allow myself to experience that emotion. And that makes it so next time, if anything like that happens, I already sort of have a script of how handling that emotion. The more times you do it, the less it actually happens, because it just becomes such a habit of processing it that it goes by so much faster and you don't even recognize it anymore, because it becomes a habit. Yeah. I feel like I went in many different directions, but it kind of all makes sense to me, I guess. Was there anything else I wanted to say? Let me see. So I began with guilt is the shadow cast by a forgotten truth. It is not born from sin, for sin is not a concept of source. But from the moment you forgot your own light and believed yourself to be separate from the divine. The yogis, like the Raja Yoga, speaks about this a lot. Quite a bit, at least. In one of the books that I read, of how much suffering comes from overly identifying with this experience in life. In the sense of, when you overly identify with this identity and forget that this is a temporary experience. You're born and everyone dies one day from this identity, or in this name and the family you have and the friends you have. Like, everything is ever changing all the time. And that clinging on to that sort of identity, instead of remembering that you're pure consciousness incarnated in this human experience for this time being, regardless if you have more lives or not, whatever anyone believes in, it doesn't really matter. But when you put things in a higher perspective, it doesn't feel as intense or painful, to be honest. So in Raja Yoga does speak about this concept, and then it goes on to, guilt arises the moment the soul, in its descent into form, internalizes distortion often taught through system of control, religion, family, culture, mistranslation of responsibility, believing you must carry others' pain to be good or worthy, broken soul contracts where you were punished for your light or where your love led to others' suffering. So it does correlate to what I was talking about, especially because one of the things that I carried guilt by was never wanting to feel like I caused someone else's pain. And I've come to realize that although I do believe in having healthy communication and understanding other people's perspective, it's not my emotion. It's theirs. In the same way when I have them, they're mine. No one is causing them. I'm just feeling them. And no one has to fix them. I have to just allow them to go through and dissolve and process them, not clinging to them. That's my own process. No one else can do that for me, and no one else can fix whatever feeling, fear, or insecurity I might have, no matter what they say, no matter how much comfort they give me. Like, only me facing that head on and looking at it with courage can do that, can change that, so that it's no longer holding me or creating tension in me and becomes insignificant, to be honest. And then guilt is not truth. It is a wound that seeks reintegration. The higher truth, guilt is not needed for evolution. Remorse might guide course correction. Reflection leads to growth. But guilt binds. It locks energy, silences the voice, and dims the flame. So not the path. And then guilt is not your guide, remembrance is. When you step back into full remembrance of your soul's essence, guilt begins to dissolve like fog under the morning sun. You begin to see. You never truly harmed anyone, only played a role in a shared karmic dream. You never needed to prove your worth, only to remember it. You are not here to carry your ancestors' pain, only to transmute it through love. And then I had also done sort of a reflection on my own when I was really feeling it really strongly. If I could find it. Yes, okay. So this is as I wrote it down. How did I get so intertwined in this reality that I forgot the truth? The enmeshment of guilt and shame, the beginning, origin, and the distortion it creates. The contraction in the body, becoming what did I write here? Becoming moving on, observing it and breathing it through while swifting consciously the mindset, becoming calm. No idea. So I wrote down like this process of what I was feeling at that point, and it was step 1. Become aware of your body the moment it is triggered. Step 2. Don't react. Pause and just observe it. Step 3. Consciously breathe into that place. Wherever that tension is going, you just breathe into it. Really take the time with yourself to do this, because the more awareness you bring into it, that's how you change it. Not by ignoring it, just relaxing it, letting it go. And then 4, whatever negative thoughts you were having, reframe them into positive ones. Just reframe it into a different mindset, one that would serve you better than positioning yourself as a victim of some sort of life, and reframing it. 5, don't be afraid of the emotions, and allow them to run through your body without resistance. Relax your whole body. Breathe in and out through your nose. If you want to, breathe out of your mouth. 6, do not distract yourself. Away from the feeling, allow your energy, mindset, and belief systems to have shifted before moving on to the next thing. 7, don't judge yourself for having to go through the process. It is a natural part of this human experience, and every day is an opportunity. It's good to keep walking. It's good to keep working through. It's good to keep working through an emotion or belief system. All that matters is that you are willing to be with it and learn how to let it go. So it's not about reaching any sort of perfection of being, and no shame in making mistakes and not doing the right thing all the time, and sometimes having to admit them, and or that you hold on to things inside of you for however long it was. There's no shame or guilt that needs to be felt, but just decide to do differently in whichever way that serves you better from now on. And it's okay to be going through whatever process you're going through, and no one has to be perfect, and we're all perfect at the same time. The whole point of this is the journey itself, so it's okay that you're going through this process. It's really good, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. And sometimes I think that I've moved on from things and they still come up. Like, to be quite honest, there were things that happened in my life that I didn't even realize how much emotion I held towards them until that would be 10 years now later. And only recently, like months ago, about certain things where those emotions finally truly released into a place where I wasn't holding any fear from feeling them or expressing my truth. And I said everything I had to say, and I felt everything I had to feel, and I cried without judging my emotion, whether it was justified or not, but I allowed myself to feel. And when I did that, and that fear just went away, and it doesn't hold anything in me anymore. Because anytime a glimpse of anything related to that specific subject comes up, I'm so quick to go to a place of surrender and of letting go that I'm just not holding on to that fear anymore, or that emotion, I guess. And so basically that is pretty much it. And as the final summary, this is what I've written. Remember no fear, no shame, and no guilt. Everything you're going through and are right now, it's okay. And only you can determine who you are every single day. It is your conscious choice. I will read it one more time. Remember no fear, no shame, and no guilt. Everything you're going through and are right now is okay. And only you can determine who you are every single day. It's your conscious choice.